take seconds?
Yes, no. I pity
the fool.
Welcome back to Fantasy Sports Island. My boy Johnny Ballgame is here.
What's up, everybody? Let's have a day today, man. Let's go.
Let's do this, John. It's just me and you. We're going solo today. We'll make it happen. We've done this before.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about something.
I'm not scared.
You're not scared? So this was the end for a lot of people in head-to-head leagues. This was the end of their fantasy season. So if you didn't make it into the playoffs, you need to get in a total points league, right, Johnny?
That's exactly right. At least partial total points.
At least,
league, man. Hybrid.
And guess what, Johnny? In the sleeper league, guess who's playing in the playoffs against each other? Johnny Ballgame and the Fantasy Reaper, head-to-head.
Yeah. Two of the coolest cats we know in a fantasy league.
The sad part is one of us will be out after this next week.
True story. In our other league that we're in together, you and I are the two first-round buys.
That's right. That is right. We got to buy.
Listen, people, you guys are getting advice from the best of the best. I mean, let's just face it. We're just killing it.
Actually, 2 for 2, baby. 2 for 2. Both of us.
Two leagues, 2 playoffs. It's actually pretty much equal as far as our standings in the playoffs. So, yeah, cool, daddy.
All right. On a sad note, I wanted to let you guys know that the reason why we didn't have a show last week is we actually lost someone near and dear to us, part of the FSI family. He's been on the show before, Adam Mofo Lawson. He passed away, sadly. We're going to miss him. This show is dedicated to him this week. John, did you have any thoughts about Adam before we move on?
No, man. Thoughts and prayers to his family. Don is a pillar of this. I mean, he helped us start this league that we're in. And so that's Adam's dad. Just know that we love you guys. We're thinking about you today, and the show's absolutely dedicated to you. And instead of being super sad about it, we're going to bring that sense of humor and fun and energy that you guys always brought to us. So let's go, Chuck.
Absolutely. Let's make this a fun show for Adam, for the family, and let's go on to something more positive. Let's talk about some fantasy nicknames, Johnny.
Okay, who you got for me this week?
I'll start it off.
All right.
We'll do it on a happy note. How about in Seattle, wide receiver Tyler Hot Pocket? That guy's on fire, bro.
He is on fire. That's a fantastic one. That might be my favorite one of all time of yours.
Oh, okay. And then in Jacksonville, I gotta pounce on this guy because he's my running back. How about James Congressman? Because he's spinning his wheels and getting nothing done.
And he's a no-show.
Hey,
I got one for Jacksonville too. Urban fired.
Oh, too soon? Too soon, Johnny. You gotta wait till he gets fired before you call it.
Too early?
Too early. How about last night in the Rams game? Super Cup.
Yeah, dude.
That guy. Are we watching the greatest fantasy season ever for a wide receiver? I think we are.
I think we are.
There's another guy that's on fire out in Tampa Bay at wide receiver. How about God Chriswin? Guy's also on fire. Jeez Louise. Back-to-back 10-plus catches weeks? That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And then we had...
That guy is on fire. Seriously. That guy's unbelievable. I mean...
How about in New Orleans? Alvin Super Camario. It's like a video game out there. The Jets couldn't stop him.
The Jets can't stop you and I, but that's beside the point. He is still Super Camario.
Yeah. All right, let's see if you get this one. This one's kind of filthy. Out in Denver, running back. 12-inch Gordon. The Fantasy Roosters roll is growing again. Cock-a-doodle-doo!
We went a long way for that one.
Oh, I got another reach here at tight end in Baltimore. How about Pork Andrews? Because he's the other white meat at tight end. He's past Kelsey, John. He's number one tight end.
I'll tell you, you know who balled. We'll talk about him a little bit later. Freaking Kittle. God.
Man, that guy's on fire.
Yeah.
How about in Arizona, running back James and Bomber? He's preserving his career. 16 touchdowns, Johnny.
You are on point today, brother. You topical and on point with these nicknames.
How about this is a movie reference. I want to see if you get it. I won't tell you what movie. How about wide receiver in Las Vegas, Hunter Waingro, because he's killing it. Do you get the reference?
I got nothing.
Have you seen the movie Heat?
Oh, I have, but God, it's been a long time.
Waingro was the killer in that movie.
Yeah, was it Val Kilmer or something like that?
It wasn't Val Kilmer. It was another guy with long hair, but he was Waingro. Anyway,
nice.
that one bombed. Last one I got, tight end for the Cowboys, Dalton Shucks, coming up small.
I was gonna call him Dalton Schmucks.
That's another one. All right, that's all I got, Johnny.
Those are good ones, man. Good ones.
All right. Let's move on to the next segment. You ready?
Yep.
All right, here we go.
News and notes around the NFL.
News and notes around the NFL, as always. And this week we start off with some just ridiculous COVID news all over the place here. COVID-19 virus is running rampant throughout the league. Odell Beckham was just added to the list of positive tests today. He joins 37 other players around the league, and now I hear it's up to like 50 by the time of this recording. So other players that were on the list: Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper, Tyler Higbee, Jalen Ramsey, Dede Westbrook, Kadarius Toney, Alexander Madison, Josh Gordon, Cedric Wilson, Jonathan Allen, amongst a bunch of other people. This is crazy, and this is the worst time for this COVID-19 variant to pop up because we're starting playoffs in head-to-head leagues. A lot of people are going to be down a lot of players, and it sucks. What do you think, John? What can you do to combat this?
I mean, honestly, hopefully you've been doing handcuffs. Hopefully you've been being real strategic about who you're putting on your bench. Right now, you're not going for, carrying out the bye week. So what you should be doing is getting the handcuffs to your star players just in case, because there's no more bye weeks. So you don't have to worry about that anymore. But if you've been smart and you've been doing that, you might be okay. If you don't have a deep bench, though, you are pretty well screwed if you're a Brown or a Charger at this point.
Yeah, the Browns and Chargers have been hit the worst.
Yeah.
It's and the Rams too. To be honest, the Rams are going to hit pretty hard.
Oh, the Rams got their butts kicked yesterday with COVID and still came out on top. That was really
good game. And Beckham actually looked really good. Unfortunately, he might miss next week.
So. He did. I mean, the fortunate thing for them is they've just played, right? So Thursday night game. Or wait, no, that was the Monday night game. Never mind.
It was the Monday night game, and I think they have.
I forgot where I'm at. Yeah.
I think they have a Sunday game, so I think they're going to be out. Yeah. Anyway, also some other things to consider is injuries, and several popped up this week. Some big ones, especially for me. Josh Allen, day to day with a foot sprain. Some say it's a turf toe. They think he's going to play, but that's not for sure. So I'm a little worried because that's basically all I got. For you, Lamar Jackson is questionable with a sprained ankle, and you're going to need him in the playoffs here. And Austin Eckler sprained his ankle as well, and he might be a little questionable to play this week. So 3 big stars injured. I think they're all going to play, though, but you never know, man. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, and I think the first 2 are really the ones that we worry about, right? Because Josh Allen and Lamar, I mean, those guys, mobility is the game for both of those guys. They both throw on the run. They both run a lot. They make me nervous. I'm a little more nervous about Lamar than I am Allen, because Allen finished the game. He was pretty much fine. I think he'll be okay. Lamar, they say he's possible to play this week. But even if he does, I don't know if I trust it. An ankle sprain is still an ankle sprain, whether it's high or low. And he's a running quarterback. I mean, and he clearly isn't throwing that well. So, I mean, I've got him on my team in at least one league, and I'm considering putting Tua in instead, even if he does play. So
Yeah, I have the same concerns with Josh Allen, though. He rushed for 100 yards in this last game, and he was a warrior, but he was in a cast, or not a cast, but a walking boot
like
after
a boot,
the game.
yeah.
And if he's got turf toe or a sprained foot, I don't think they're going to run him much. I think he's going to be a pocket quarterback, and that takes away some of his fantasy firepower, man.
Because even his throwing is on the run a lot. You know,
a lot.
he rolls out really well and throws on the run. So yeah.
And his offensive line isn't great, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you got a good backup, right?
Oh, I have nobody right now.
You know, I was feeling funny.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about some positive stuff. George Kittle has exploded these last 2 weeks.
Kittles.
He had 9 catches for 181 and 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. And this week he had 13 receptions for 151 and another touchdown. What the hell's going on in San Francisco?
It's funny. My son is playing fantasy football, and he made a trade for him about 3 weeks ago, and looks like an absolute genius. He helped him get to the playoffs. Just unbelievable. I mean, really, just thank God he's back, because I think the league's better when Kittle's in it and just having fun and balling out. So it's a really
also brilliant move by your son, by the way, getting Kittle at the perfect time, right before he explodes. But what's happening now is you notice he's taking up Debo's role in the passing game. Debo is now catching 1 ball every week, but they're using Debo at running back more, and he's still producing, but he's not producing at that level he was producing.
Not like he was.
Kittle was out. Yeah, so I'm not sure I'm loving this, but what are you going to do, right?
Poor Chuck. All his people are collapsing right at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing so well for so long, and now I'm in a little bit of trouble, but I'm hanging on. I'm still in second.
Still second.
We're gonna get through this. All right. Mike Tomlin says that Chase Claypool's growth can't happen fast enough. What he's talking about is, let's talk about it. Claypool finished with 8 catches for 93 yards, but he got a taunting penalty after his first catch in the first quarter, where he put his finger in someone's helmet. Stupid. Then he fumbled on the next time he caught a ball. Now they overturned the call, but he still, it looked like a fumble to me. I don't know why they overturned it. Then on the final drive, with seconds ticking away and Pittsburgh trying to make an epic comeback, he catches a ball for a first down in the middle of the field and celebrates instead of getting the ball to the ref. And one of his teammates got real pissed off at him, like, "What are you doing? Think, McFly, think."
Yeah, well, not only that, like the center was trying to get the ball from him, and he started to fight with him, and then the ball ended up going on the ground.
Yep.
Precious seconds, and all you hear is Chris Berman, his voice in your back going, tick, 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 tick. And I was like, oh, God.
And let's be real, those couple precious seconds that they lost there, that would have given them an extra play at the very end.
And that's when they needed it.
Yeah.
They needed it so bad because they were 1 play away from winning that game.
Exactly. Yeah, he's
so stupid.
He's such a talented player, but he is kind of an idiot, and he's doing these kind of things every week. And so I get what Mike Tomlin's saying. This dude needs to grow up fast.
That kid would be sitting on my bench. He'd be sitting on my bench until he did. I swear to God, I would not start that kid this week. He would understand.
Wow. And they're 6-1 and trying to make the playoffs in Ben Roethlisberger's final season. And man, I don't know if they could bench one of their best receivers, but he may need to. This guy needs to learn a lesson.
Addition by subtraction.
Yep. Last bit of news this week is sad news. Last week, Demaryius Thomas passed away. He was found dead in his home at the age of 33. The guy could still be playing. I mean, Julio Jones is, 33, I believe? And he's still playing.
Retired. He
just retired. He passes away. Reports was he was having some seizures and things of that nature. The Broncos did honor him on Sunday by vacating the ex-receiver position on the opening play. They came into the huddle with only 10. So that was kind of cool to see. The fans gave him a standing ovation. It was quite the moment. But man, what a sad story! I can't believe Demaryius Thomas is gone. May he rest in peace.
Yeah. I loved watching him play. He was one of my favorite receivers when he played. He's just always real tough, always going over. God, you hear people talk about him, and that they called him Bebe, and they they talk about just him in just glowing terms of what a great team he was and team member and, just person and human. And I love that. And you saw it, some of the guys that played with him, when especially the defense went over on that number 88 and put the ball right in the middle and celebrated on the ground with with him. And I thought that was really cool. There's a couple of really cool moments in that game.
Yeah, I had Demaryius Thomas the same year I had Peyton Manning back on the record-setting 55 touchdown season. And man, the guy he was just athletic, fast, quiet, didn't say a word, just did the work.
And fun to watch.
Fun to watch.
God, I loved him. He balled out.
Yeah, too bad. Very sad story. All right, let's move on.
Fantasy heroes and zeros.
Let's do some fun stuff. Fantasy heroes, and then we'll do some fantasy zeros, all right?
Ooh, yeah.
We always start with the positive and the fantasy heroes. Johnny, you go first. Who was your fantasy hero this week?
I had a guy that I had to put in because I had Elijah Moore, who at the time, I wasn't even sure if he was going to play because they were just calling him questionable. Later, he ended up going on the IR a day after I made this decision. But I thought, I'm going to try it. KJ Osborne, Vikings, wide receiver. I knew Thielen was going to be out, and I knew this guy would bring it home, and man, he did. It was absolutely awesome. And again, it was a little bad right at first because he wasn't getting that many passes, but then in the second half started to take off, and then he had that one big long bomb touchdown, which was fantastic. Ended up with 21 points for me. It was just a great.
All you need is one, baby. That long touchdown.
It was like 3 catches, 83 yards, a 62-yard touchdown. All you need is that. I mean, it was fantastic. So much needed.
Absolutely. That was a good week for him. All right, my hero, again, Josh Allen, baby. The guy just does it every time. Now, again, if he didn't have to play New England, this guy would be quarterback 1. But unfortunately, he had 2 bad weeks, both against Bill Belichick.
All right, but can we have a little truth time, though?
Yeah.
Was he a hero or a zero for you in the first half?
I texted you, John, and I was like, this guy doesn't have it anymore. He's a turnover machine. He had very little points at halftime. He looked terrible. And in the second half, he does Josh Allen things. 36 of 54, 308 yards passing, and he chipped in 100 yards rushing, 109, and he got 3 touchdowns. And he did that on a bad foot. You could tell he was limping around, but that's a warrior. That is a true hero. He came through for me. And thank you, Josh Allen, and I apologize for busting your ass in the first half. All right. Second hero. You got one at tight end, John. Who is it?
I do. Needed a tight end. Just wasn't sure about Ertz. Didn't have anybody coming up because Ertz was still questionable all week. So I went out on the waiver wire and I picked up a little fellow named Austin Hooper. I knew they were hurting at tight end in Cleveland, and I thought, I think he's the only healthy tight end. And he came through 5 catches, 30 yards, which isn't anything to write home about, but he got himself a tutty. So I will take 14 points from a tight end this year, any day of the week. So Austin Hooper. So both of my heroes this week were people I picked up last minute to help me out because I had some injuries.
John, you bastard. I had Logan Thomas that I put on IR. I had Hawkinson ready to go, and then Hawkinson hurt his hand and became doubtful. And my plan was, let me just wait because I'm going to have to drop a quarterback to go get Austin Hooper. So I didn't want to drop the quarterback right away. I wanted to wait right before Sunday and do it. And then I noticed Johnny Ballgame went and picked up Austin Hooper, destroyed my whole plan.
How many times did we do that to each other, though? Always.
The worst part is what I pivoted to, and that was to the Raider tight end.
Oh, the
Foster
one I
Moreau.
Yeah.
Foster Moreau, the guy you dropped. I figured, well, he's the next best guy. Let me throw him out there, and he shit the bed as well. So thank you, Johnny Ballgame, for destroying my plan.
Sorry, man.
All right, well, that's all right.
Foster killed me the week before, if that makes you feel any better. That's why.
Yeah, he did. He got you. But at least I didn't steal your player that you were going to get. Who did have a good week, by the way.
That's true. Yeah.
All right. So in the sleeper league, in which I've made the playoffs, and I'm going to battle Johnny Ballgame next week to move on, I have Devontae Adams. And he helped me get through this week so I could make it to the playoffs. Devontae Adams had 10 catches, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. Love this guy. Devontae Adams is my hero this week. All right. We got heroes out the way. Now we got to talk about those freaking zeros. These guys came up short. They came up small. You want to start us off, John?
I think I'm going to pair mine. Because they both crap the bed in the very same game together. One caused the other. And that's our friends Lamar Jackson and Marquise Hollywood, Florida Brown. From Hollywood, Florida. You know what? That's what you get. You know what? You're not even going to be called Hollywood. You're Marquise now. I'm going to mispronounce it. It's Marquise. Marquise Brown. You let us down. I didn't mean to rhyme that, but that was cool. And Lamar Jackson, just terrible. I mean, Lamar hurt his ankle, and the Marquise didn't catch anything from the backup quarterback, and the other receivers did. So it wasn't just the backup quarterback's fault. Marquise just didn't look like Marquise after Lamar left. It was sad. It was pitiful to watch. Marquise had 5 receptions for 41 yards, which is tight.
Don't get it done.
Yeah, that just doesn't get it done, especially when I needed him because Lamar went out. I needed all my other players to pick it up, and he just didn't. So they both.
We talk about this every week too, John.
Yeah.
A real true fantasy hero will get all those points before he gets hurt, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He didn't do that for you. Lamar came up real small. Probably had 3 or 4 points before he got hurt, and that was it.
5.95. Now I will say this: he was 4 for 4 for 17 yards and had a couple rushes for 5 yards, so he was on his way. He could have had himself a nice game.
But he got hurt too early, Johnny.
Your zeros.
Yep. Well, I got 2 zeros, and I'll just knock them out here. First one's got to be James Robinson. And this guy's been a 0 for weeks now. Urban Meyer he's in his doghouse. He won't give him the rock. If he fumbles the ball, he'll take him out for large portions of the game. This week, he goes 6 carries for 4 freaking yards. Are you kidding me? First of all, why is he only touching the ball 6 times in an entire game? He got no targets. And why can't he get more than 4 yards? What is going on? Their offense is the worst I've ever seen, John. It is garbage.
I've never seen a quarterback regress as much as Lawrence is. And he's regressing. And it's all Urban Meyer. It's all that offense. It's all the coaching staff. It is one of the worst coaching jobs I've ever seen in my life. And I've had to suffer through some bad ones for the Bears.
Worse than Nagy?
Yes. I would take Nagy a million times over Urban Meyer. And I'm an Ohio State fan, people. You need to understand, Urban won us a championship. He won us a lot of games. But there was always something a little off about him because he was with Florida first, and I hate Florida. But still, no offense to Floridians, but it's not my college team. But Urban's terrible pro coach. It's terrible.
We'll get to him later. I got more on him. Last 0. I actually didn't end up playing him, thank God, but I almost had to because I wasn't sure if Debo was going to play or not, but he ended up playing. I was going to throw in Julio Jones into the lineup. Thought, man, he's back. He's healthy. He's practicing full. There's no, A.J. Brown. He's out. He's going to be the man this week, and they had a good matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Julio only got 4 catches for 33 yards, and he did it in a game where he didn't get hurt. So that's a 0 for me. I will not be using Julio Jones. I just think he's done. I think it's, we're going to have the Fantasy Reaper later on come on, and he's not one of the guys that we're going to take out, but we probably should.
Getting close, man. I mean, seriously.
He's about there.
Yeah.
The Trust Tree.
What? I thought we were in the trust tree in the nest. Are we not?
All right, we haven't done this segment in a while, and it's time to do it because we're in playoff mode now. The Trust Tree. And just like in the movie, what was that movie? It was Old School. Just like in Old School where he goes to see the psychiatrist, he tells him it's a safe place, you're in the nest, you're in the trust tree, you can say anything. And he starts talking about some woman's panties, and the doctor gives him a look, and he's like, "What? I thought we were in the
I
trust
thought we were in
tree,
the
like the
trust tree.
nest."
Mhm.
Yeah. So we're gonna go over some guys that are starting to come on right now. They're starting to play better, and now it's
Yeah.
playoff time. Do we trust them in the playoffs? Ready, John?
Do it.
All right. The first guy I want to talk about is Ben Roethlisberger. Yes, I gave up on him. I divorced him. I don't want anything to do with him.
You did. You broke up. It was an
What?
ugly breakup.
Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback 19 now. And in the last 4 weeks, he's quarterback 11, which is that's a quarterback one. Like he's a top 12 quarterback in a 12-team league. So, do we trust him going into the playoffs? John, what do you think?
No, I don't trust him. I mean, I will say this: he's Big Ben. He does find a way to win. He does find a way to put up some stats, and he's got talented players around him. But that arm, if you look at any of the long throws he throws, it takes every ounce of energy and strength that guy's got just to get a ball out there. So I don't trust him. I'm out.
The only reason he had a good game was because they were so far behind and it was just go mode. He had to throw it like 50 times, and he came through, pretty good game, but I don't expect him to do that very often. And no, I don't trust him. I'm not playing him in the playoffs. There's no way. And honestly, John, if Josh Allen doesn't play, I may have to pick up Big Ben and play him. But do I trust him? Hell no. Hell no.
That
No.
will be rough.
All right, here's another guy. This is kind of the opposite. This guy started off really well, and now he's free falling. Dak Prescott. He's still quarterback 10, which makes him, a startable quarterback. But in the last 6 weeks, he is quarterback 17 overall. Do we trust Dak in the playoffs?
I think you have to, only because what other options do you have, really? I mean, he's still, like you said, he's still 17, so he's still in there. I kind of feel like there's just too much talent around him not to figure it out, not to turn it on towards the end of the season. I trust him. I'm in the trust tree.
I'm on the fence on this one. I would have said 2 weeks ago, hell yeah, I trust him. He's got weapons. All the guys are getting healthy. Amari Cooper looks like he's back. There's something missing, man. He's not. I don't know what it is. I can't get my finger on it,
It's
but
weird. I know.
I don't trust him right now. I really don't. But if you drafted Dak Prescott, you probably don't have a great backup,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you
can't
got to
play
play him. You got to roll with them. So you got to trust them, and we'll see. They still have great receivers. They have probably one of the best stable of receivers in the league. So, and Pollard's out, so they don't have as many running backs to lean on as they had before. It feels like they got to throw the ball, right, John?
Yep. Because we saw that Zeke without Pollard is still just Zeke, and very good. So doesn't bode well for me because I've got that guy in a lot of leagues. I got a lot of shares of Zeke. I got a lot of shares of Zeke, and couldn't be more disappointed. Absolutely.
Good segue. So do you trust Zeke?
I don't.
Oh,
I don't.
Johnny.
And it hurts my heart. I mean, you guys know, giant fan. But I'm not rolling with him this week. I'm going with Montgomery and I'm going with Cordell.
I do not blame you.
Yeah.
You're going with Scordero Patterson?
I am going with Cordell. I trust that guy.
That guy I trust too.
Yeah.
Here's a guy. He's only done it once, so it's tough to trust him. But Rashad Penny in Seattle goes for 137 and 2 touchdowns in Week 14 against the Texans. Do we trust him in the playoffs? Hell no.
No, that guy's let us down way too many times.
He's going to get hurt, first of all, and I don't trust Pete Carroll to be consistent with their running backs. And I just don't think Seattle's that good. They played the Texans this week. Let me see what they can do against the Rams coming up here. Yeah.
Yeah, they look good against really bad teams. They look terrible against really good teams. So
Exactly.
trust Rashard Penny with anything. No.
All right, back to the Steelers. Back to this guy, Chase Claypool. He's wide receiver 36 now, which is actually him. He's climbing. He's actually been pretty decent the last 6 weeks or so. But do we trust him in the playoffs? Will he lose his head, do something stupid, get benched, fumble, get an unsportsmanlike conduct? Do you trust this guy?
I mean, I don't, but in the playoffs, you need upside, and that guy's got all kinds of upside. So I think you got to take a chance on him. I do also think he will be on his single best behavior ever, at least for the next game. And he's going to want to go out and prove he's not just a joke. So it's one of those games where I could see him going off. I would trust him in this first round of the playoffs.
I saw something that made me trust him a little more on that last drive against the Vikings when all the chips were down and they had to go 90 yards down the field. You notice who Ben Roethlisberger was leaning on? Chase Claypool. I believe
At least
Claypool caught
3 times.
6 balls on that drive, I believe. 5 or
Was it
6
6
balls.
on that drive? Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
a
it was like
bunch. Yeah.
it was a bunch, and he targeted him quite a bit, and that gave me some hope. Like, oh, there it is. There's the guy we've been waiting for.
Yeah, and if
So-
he hadn't done the stupid thing that he did, he would have. He probably would have ended up catching the winning touchdown because Ben was going to that guy all the time.
And I played him this last week, and he got me I think 18 points, 19 points. So thank you, Chase Claypool. I'm beginning to trust you just a little. Not your head, but your
No,
talent.
But your talent, your upside. I trust that.
Yeah. All right, here's a guy that we gave up on earlier this season who suddenly is coming back a little bit. Wide receiver in Cleveland, Jarvis Landry, wide receiver 61. But in the last 3 weeks, he's put it together 14, 19, and 15 fantasy points, respectively. So he's becoming that consistent target monster that we hoped he would be earlier in the season. Now, the things are a little dicey with the quarterback there. Baker Mayfield's shoulder is re-injured. Is he going to play? Does it matter to you, John? Do you trust Jarvis Landry going into the playoffs?
I honestly think he'll be a little bit better if he doesn't play because I think Colt McCoy is it Colt McCoy their backup? It's one of those guys like that. Who is their backup? Is it Colt?
I want to say it's Case Keenum, right?
Case Keenum. Yes, thank you. I know those guys. I put them in a box and shake them up. It's the same fella. But he throws a little bit better, and I think Jarvis is finally starting to get healthy and starting to look good. I am going to trust Jarvis. In fact, I have to trust him. He's on my team, and provided he comes out of the COVID protocol, which make sure you keep an eye on that because he did this today. If he comes out of it, I am rolling with me some Jarvis Landry.
Yeah. I'm trusting him. I'm trusting him now. He's been real consistent the last 3 weeks. He kind of, after Beckham kind of moved on and went to the Rams, you've noticed Landry's starting to get more looks, more consistent looks. So I think I do trust him. Play him. Screw it. All right. Now, I wanted to talk about this guy. You have to trust this guy because right now he's wide receiver 8 in Seattle. Tyler Lockett. Hot pocket. Tyler Hot Pocket. What do you think, John? Can you trust him? Because as we've talked about before, he's Mr. 30, 40-point game, and then he comes up with a goose egg, and he goes off again, and then he comes back with 4 or 5 points. But he's been pretty consistent lately. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to read you his line. 18, 36, 45, 7, 6, 10, 5, 3. Then he comes back with a 36, 4. Comes back with a 20, 12. Comes back with a 19 and then a 36. So he's got a couple of weeks following him. Do you know what that means? He's due
for a stinker.
I don't trust him. No, sir. Not one. This is a DK Metcalf trap. Do not fall for this Lockett bull crap. Do not do it. If you do, I want you to comment on our video and say, I'm sorry, John, I should have listened to you. That's what.
But if you have Tyler Lockett, you pretty much have to play him, right? I mean, he's wide receiver 8. He's a definite starting wide receiver. If you don't play him and he gets 30 or 40 points, you're going to feel pretty stupid.
I mean, you have to play him only because, again, the upside, but God, his floor so low. He's got a high ceiling, but the lowest floor of any big-time receiver that there is right now.
Fingers crossed. You throw him out there, and you just hope to God he has one of those big games and not a stinker, because he's very capable.
The 7, 6, 10, 5, 3 chunk of
Geno
time.
Smith.
Eh,
That was Geno Smith time.
some of it.
Yeah. All right. Next guy. This guy's really beasting lately. Out in Las Vegas, wide receiver 13, Hunter Renfrow. This fool, last 3 weeks, He's wide receiver 2, Johnny. Cooper Kupp, Hunter Renfrow. What in the fuck is going on?
That I trust him. I roll with Renfro. If I have Renfro, roll with that guy. He is on fire right now.
Let's Renfro go! Rengo, let's go!
Yeah.
Gotta roll with him.
Gotta roll with the Renfro.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, especially when Waller's out, Carr locks on. You know, Carr is infamous for locking on to one guy, okay? He did it with Waller, and now he's doing it with Hunter Renfro. If you got Hunter Renfro, hell yeah, let's go. Unfortunately, I have 0 shares of that guy, but
I do too. I have 0 shares. I wanted him so bad.
he's fun to watch.
He's fun to watch. I didn't want him in the beginning. I wanted him later, but our good friend the Mofos went and got him early. I will say this. What's his face? Ruggs being kicked off the team helped him quite a bit. So
Absolutely. It basically elevated him to the wide receiver 1, and he's playing exactly like Cooper Kupp. Yeah. Yep. All right. Tight end. I wanted to talk about this guy because he did have one good game. You picked him up. Austin Hooper. He got 5 for 30 and a touchdown. But do you trust him going into the playoffs, or was this a one and done?
No, especially if
Njoku.
he comes back. If Harrison comes back, I mean, is it Harrison Bryant?
Yep.
He's 1 and a 3. I think he's better than both of those guys, but there's too much timeshare that goes on with them. So now, if those guys are out, I might roll with Honey again. Although I will say Ertz actually had a pretty good game. Those are my 2 tight end choices in that league. But I like him if the other 2 guys are still out because he's their only option.
If Njoku comes back, and keep your eye on it. If he doesn't come back, I like Hooper. I trust him. But if he does come back, then like you said, it's a timeshare. I don't like it. Stay away.
I'm with you.
All right. Cool. Done with the trust tree. Word. All right.
Week 15 matchups.
Now, it's playoff time, baby. Week 15 is here. And we're not going to talk, I've been watching a lot or listening to a lot of fantasy football shows, and they're calling today loser day. And all they're talking about is all the people that lost and didn't make the playoffs and what happened. And I don't want to talk about that. Let's talk about the people that made it to the playoffs. The ones that are still alive, that did the work. They're the ones that are watching this show, baby. We're winners.
You and me.
That's right. We're winners, and we want to talk about winners. So let's talk about our Week 15 matchups, waiver wire pickups, etc. I got 4 games that I want to focus on, and let's talk about the good stuff in fantasy football that you could get out of these guys in these games.
Love it.
Right?
Let's go. Yep.
Thursday night game, 9-4 Kansas City Chiefs at the 8-5 Los Angeles Chargers. I love this game, Johnny. So the Chiefs are favored by 3. The over-under is 52. High-scoring game in Los Angeles. What do you think, John?
This feel a little bit like one of those games that we go, oh, I can't wait. It's going to just be a killer, and they're just going to track meet it, and everyone's going to be running, and then it ends up like 21-17 or something like that. I kind of feel like this is a trap game, but because here's the thing, Chiefs defense has been playing out of their minds for the last couple of weeks. Now, granted, 2 of those games were against the Raiders, and it's pretty easy to do that sometimes, but I mean, they still got weapons. So do I think it's going to, what did you say the over-under is?
52. Seems high.
I don't think I go with that over. I think I go under.
I do too. I think it is going to be a little bit more low scoring, and I don't expect fireworks in this game because the Chiefs don't play that way anymore. They're more of a ground and pound, take what the defense gives you type of team, and their defense is playing well, and they've been playing in a lot of games. However, like last week, they destroyed the Raiders, of course, twice they've done it now, but their defense didn't give up jack. I mean, their defense has been really good, and I don't see the Chargers pouncing on the Chiefs and scoring a bunch of points. So I think it's going to be a closer game, but I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. So, but you got to play all your guys. You got to play your Tyreek Hill, your Kelsey. By the way, something's not right with Travis Kelsey. He's fallen off a cliff this last 5 years.
Yeah, because
5 games.
even the kind of the style of game they're playing should actually benefit Kelsey and not take away from it. You know,
Yeah.
and you're getting play action passes. Yeah, I think you're right. I feel like there's something wrong with him. He's just not getting open, and when he does, he's not even catching the ball every single time. So something ain't right.
Is it age? Is he starting to hit that wall? Father
Learning
time,
girl.
maybe? This was
And
what
he
I was
already-
worried about earlier in the year when we were talking about would we draft him in the first round, and I was like,
Mhm.
yeah. And it turns out you probably shouldn't have because he hasn't panned out. He's scoring 5 or 6 points less this year than he did last year to justify a first round pick. So he's
Oh.
not. Yeah, it's not the same
Yeah.
guy. And Mark Andrews has passed him up. And you know who's right on his ass? George Kittle. Yeah.
Who we also thought was completely washed up and never going to play again, by the way. So
George Kittle's, yeah.
Kelsey won't come back next year, but this year he's having a bad year.
Yeah, I don't think Kelsey's done, but I am a little concerned because he is up there in age. I think he's 34, 33, 34, or maybe 32. Can't remember. But I know for a tight
I was
end.
thinking Kittle was older than him.
Is Kittle older than him? I don't think so, but we can check on that if you want. All right. Saturday game. Yeah, Saturday, guys. There's games on Saturday. Be ready. The New England Patriots, 9-4, at the Indianapolis Colts, 7-6. The Colts are favored by 2.5 at home. The over-under is 45.5. First of all, I'm just going to say it. I think it's bullshit that the Colts are favored in this game. The Patriots have won, 7 straight games? They're the hottest team in the NFL. Their defense is playing the best it's played in years. They don't turn the ball over. They're running the ball really well. And Mac Jones is doing what Tom Brady used to do, just nickel and dime you to death. And they're not favored in this game to a 7-6 Indianapolis Colts. I don't get it. What do you think, John?
I don't get it either. I think the Patriots win this game pretty handily because here's what Belichick's amazing at doing: taking away the thing that you do the best. And they do the best is Jonathan Taylor. If you think he's not going to scheme to take away Jonathan Taylor, you are absolutely insane, which means that our boy quarterback there is going to have to actually win games and not just be a manager like he's been for the last several weeks. And he's looked pretty good, but it's easy to look pretty good when you've got Taylor. You hand him off, everybody's afraid of him running. And so he's going to have to be a really good quarterback. The receivers we both know they're okay, right? I mean, there's a couple that are pretty good, but they're not great. I think the Patriots win this game.
I want to be the devil's advocate for just a minute because what you said made absolute perfect sense. Yes, Bill Belichick is the master of taking away your best weapon. But the last 6 times, Bill Belichick teams have faced the leading rusher in the NFL. You know what that rusher did to them? They got 100 yards each and every time.
Interesting.
It is an interesting stat. I heard this stat and I had to go look it up for myself, and I was like, wow, it's true. So 6 times in a row, but we're talking about the leading rusher in the NFL. We're talking about the Derrick Henrys, the Jonathan Taylors, these type of guys. So
Yeah.
now, having said
Also,
that,
the Patriots defense is playing out of their minds.
out of their mind.
They've had a bye week for Belichick to plan for 10
That's
years.
right.
I take me some Belichick and Patriots on this one.
And even if Jonathan Taylor gets 100 yards, if he doesn't get in the end zone, that's not that big a game. So.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah.
But I do expect Jonathan Taylor to have a decent game. I do not expect any of the receivers on the Colts to do anything of any value. I would stay away from that. I think this is a low-scoring game, super low-scoring. Vegas has it at 45.5, and I'd still take the under. I think it's going to be low-scoring.
Yeah, I think you might be right. That's a low one, but yeah, I think you might be right.
Yeah. Okay. Sunday, we got 2 games I want to talk about.
By the way, real quick before you do that, I looked it up. Kelsey is actually 4 years older than Kittle. He's 31 years old.
Okay.
And so our boy Kittle's 27.
31. Okay, that's younger than I thought he was. So I'm not ready to give up on Kelsey. That's still pretty young.
Anyway,
Okay.
tight end's one of those you could go a little bit longer.
Nice. Thanks, John. All right. Sunday, 9-4, Tennessee Titans at 6-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. I think this is the game for the Steelers that determines if they're finished or if they're going to make the playoffs. They got to win this game. Now the Titans are favored by 1.5. It's in Pittsburgh. The over-under is 41.5, John. That's the lowest over-under I've seen in a long time. This is going to be, according to Vegas, a super low-scoring defensive battle. And guess what I think? Take the freaking over. This ain't going to be no defensive battle. Pittsburgh can't stop the run, baby. And you know what? Tennessee can't stop the pass. So I think this is going to be a shootout. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think it'll be a shootout. I actually think the Steelers are going to end up winning this game, believe it or not. I really like Tennessee, but this feels like a trap game. Tennessee barely beat the Jaguars last week. Let me say that again. Tennessee barely beat the Jaguars. The score was way closer than it looked.
It was 16-0.
Yeah.
The defense absolutely shut the Jaguars down, but that's not hard to do.
Yeah. You and I, just the two of us, can shut the Jaguars down, right?
Yeah.
No, I actually think the Steelers are going to win that game. And I think you're right. Their defensive backs aren't that good. And I think Ben will have a pretty good game, which is why I said I would trust him and Claypool for this first playoff game. And then I don't trust him beyond that, but that's a difference.
You said it. This is a trap game. Tennessee has they're like 9-4. They pretty much, if the Colts lose to New England, which I think they will, the Tennessee Titans pretty much have that division wrapped up. I mean, they'll have a 2-game lead. I don't think they're as motivated as Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think Pittsburgh's going to win this game, and I think you're right. I think Deontay Johnson and Claypool will have good games. I think Big Ben will have a decent game. And what do you think about Ryan Tannehill? Do you trust him this week, or is he going to have a stinker?
Hard to trust him. Still doesn't have Brown back yet, right? A.J. Brown. He's just Julio, who doesn't look anything like Julio used to look.
No.
And a couple of, the one guy, Westbrook Akine or whatever that guy's name is probably a guy, and he only caught like 3 passes last week. So no.
Now, what do we think? What do we think about the Tennessee running game? You got Hilliard and you got Deontay Foreman. Do you like either of those guys?
No, I think they take turns. I don't think they're. And then you got what's his face is back too. That third guy, which just muddles the whole picture up. McNichols. So I'm out on the whole Tennessee offense.
I like Foreman. I think he's going to go off. I think Pittsburgh's they're sieves on defense. Did you see what Madison and Cook did to them? I mean, Cook had 200 yards all by himself, but Madison broke some long runs as well. They were just getting freaking torched.
All right, but let me say this. You've got Cousins, Jefferson, Osborne. You've got weapons on the outside, and they're terrified of that.
True.
Who's Pittsburgh scared of on the Titans right now?
Julio
Old Bones? I don't think so.
Julio Bones. I like that one. All right. Last game that I want to talk about is also on Sunday. The 10-3 Green Bay Packers at the 8-5 Baltimore Ravens. The Packers are favored on the road by 4.5. 43.5 is the over-under, which is pretty low scoring for a Baltimore-Green Bay game. I think Vegas screwed up again, man. I think this is a trap game for Green Bay. I think Baltimore wins this game. What do you think, Johnny?
I think I like the over. Game scares me a little bit, though, because I feel like I don't know what to expect from it because I don't know who Baltimore's quarterback's going to be. And either way, I think they'll gain some yards on the ground. Packers defense is good, though. Packers defense is good. And the Ravens defense is not that good. So I expect Green Bay to win this game. I expect Green Bay to win pretty big, actually.
I'm obviously assuming that Lamar's going to make it and play. But if he doesn't play, then yeah, I got to go with Green Bay. But I really think Baltimore can win this game. They're at home. They play better at home. I think Lamar's due for a bounce-back game, and I think your boy Hollywood Brown needs to come back to California. And we'll see.
Damn, you're making me question my decision to maybe play Tua against the Jets.
I don't blame you for playing Tua, though, because Lamar has been awful lately, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But we'll see. That's just my feeling. Also, Mark Andrews is a beast. He's on a mission right now. So play him.
Yeah, he's very good.
Keep him in your lineup, folks.
That's right. No matter who
All right.
the quarterback is, by the way, play him.
Play him, exactly. Because Hundley was feeding him too. So,
Mhm.
yep. Okay,
By the
we
way,
got a new.
that kid looked pretty good, by the way.
Yeah, he wasn't bad, but it's one game. You know who else looked good for one game? Geno Smith.
Mike
These
White.
guys, yeah, Mike White.
Where are they now?
New segment for you, fellas and ladies. Where are they now? And it's not like one of those where we show like childhood celebrities and show you what they're doing now in their careers. We're talking about bona fide superstars that we drafted. Where are we going to draft them if we were drafting now? Because now it's totally different than what it was when we originally drafted these people. So I'm going to throw out some names and we're going by round and we're going to talk about where we would think about drafting them or where we think they'll go if we were redrafting right now. All right? First guy was the first overall pick in just about every league. If he wasn't, I don't know what league you're in, but you should get out. Christian McCaffrey, the number 1 overall pick. Where does he go now, Johnny?
In the second round. You take a flyer on him like you did Saquon this year.
What? Second round? You're crazy.
What's he done?
Well, he's the number 1 running back when he plays.
When he plays.
Right.
I mean, honest to God, can you trust him? Do you trust him again? Will you draft him next year? Let's say you get number 1 pick. Are you drafting Christian McCaffrey?
No. And I wouldn't draft him at 2, 3, or 4. I think in the middle of the first round is about the sweet spot because you're taking a risk.
I might go end of first round, maybe. But I'm being serious, dude. I don't know that I would draft him in the first round. I'm terrified of that guy. Now we're going 2 years of MIA and great appearances occasionally, and then when he comes back, not that great appearances. So I don't know what to do with that. I'm not drafting him in the first round. I'm out.
Fair enough. Dalvin Cook was the consensus number 2 overall pick in most leagues. Where would we take him right now?
I'd go middle of the first round still.
I'm right there with you.
But he's injured a lot less than those guys, and he comes back, and he plays well when he comes back.
I would take him right around where I take Christian McCaffrey, mid-first round, for sure. All right. The 3rd overall pick in our league was a little risky. It was Ezekiel Elliott. Where would you take Zeke if you had to do it over again?
But I'm the one who took him at 3rd. I would take him 2nd round.
I agree. I think the sweet spot is like the end of the 1st, early 2nd. And if I'm thinking aloud, it depends on what they do with Pollard.
Yeah, I agree.
If I'm hearing Pollard's going to start to be the man there, and they're trying to kind of like move away from Zeke, or even if it's a 50-50 split, kind of like with Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, then I'm not taking Zeke till the 3rd round. I'm sorry.
3rd round. Yep, I agree.
All right. This guy went 7th overall, and that's about where he went in most leagues. Travis Kelce. Obviously, didn't pay off this year as a first-round pick. Where do you take him if you're drafting now?
4th round? 5th round?
4th or 5th round? Wow, that's late.
Is it? Seriously, what tight end? Andrews is the only tight end that got drafted before the 5th round that's doing anything.
You could say George Kittle.
He didn't get drafted. He didn't get drafted till later because he was injured.
No, he got drafted in the 2nd round.
Did he? Kittle did?
Yeah. In our league, he actually got taken ahead of Kelce, which now looks brilliant. But at the time, was a joke.
I was going to say, but that at the time, we thought that was a homer pick.
It was a homer pick, but it actually ended up being the right pick. Coming down the stretch, Kittle is by far better than Kelce right now. Now, I wouldn't say Kelce.
I guess I'm just against tight ends that early anyway. So maybe bias on my part.
A lot of people take that philosophy that they will not take a tight end until the 4th or 5th round. They'd rather get the running backs and receivers first. And I get that because this year explains exactly why you do that. This year, you would have gotten screwed if you took Waller. You'd have gotten screwed if you took Kelce.
Yep.
So it makes sense.
And you would have thought you got screwed in the beginning of the year if you took Kittle. You're just
Well,
getting
you did for a while when he's been out
Yeah.
injured and stuff, of course. Kelsey, I'd taken the second, late second,
third.
early third. That's where I see value.
I would give in on early third.
All right, how about the 8th overall pick this year in our league? Aaron Jones. He's not performed as a first rounder this year, and he's in a timeshare now. Where will you take him?
I'd maybe consider late second round, early third round. And
I'm right there with you. That sounds about right.
Another team. You know what I mean? Because I think Dylan's going to end up being the starter next year.
I may even push him to the 4th round because I am worried about Dylan being the guy next year. And I'm not sure Aaron Rodgers is going to be there next year. And if Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be there, that really hammers the value of Aaron Jones.
Yep. I'm with you.
All right.
I think he becomes their third down back there, which is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This one's easy. Jonathan Taylor was picked in most drafts late in the 1st round or early 2nd round. He's the 1st overall pick now, isn't he?
I think he has to be. I think you'd have to look at Henry and see how Henry does if he comes back for the playoffs, and if he looks like the old Henry, might number 1 and then Taylor number 2. But honestly, I don't know that. I might consider still Henry. But when they were running at the same time and doing the same thing, Henry was the better back.
Henry was the better back, but Jonathan Taylor wasn't unleashed yet. And now that he's been unleashed, I'd like to compare him to what Henry was doing in the beginning of the year. I still think Henry
I wish we could have had a full year. I think that would have been fun.
Would have been fun. It would have been a good race.
But I think Henry going to break 2,000 again because he was on pace and just crushing it.
So this year we learned a pretty valuable lesson. We like to take quarterbacks early in our league because they do score a lot. But this year, probably, especially with the consensus number 1 was Patrick Mahomes, that didn't pay off. So now, where will we take Mahomes?
I feel like he's due a bounce back year next year, but I don't think you need to take him before 3 or 4.
And for our league, that's quite a drop, let me tell you. In a normal league, you're probably thinking 5th, 6th round. In our league, if you take him in the 3rd or 4th round, that could be a steal.
You would feel like you got a gift from the heavens if you took him.
Exactly. And I would take him in the 3rd round. That's the sweet spot.
Yeah.
Okay. I got 2 guys that I want to throw at you. These were 4th round picks. Wide receivers. Big names. Where will we take them now? Allen Robinson, Robert Woods.
Allen Robinson, it depends on what team he goes to. I mean, I would love to say, he's going to have a bounce back year next year, but I don't know. 6th round for him, maybe 5th round.
Hell no.
Might be too high.
Too high. Yeah. 10th round. Yeah.
But I do feel like he's a bounce back candidate next year, so I don't want to go too crazy on him. I still think maybe 6th or 7th, you're going to get a bargain. And then next year, that's going to be one that at the end of the year, you're going, I stole that guy. Can you believe I stole that guy in the 7th round? Like I did with Marquise, who was looking great until the last couple of weeks. I got him, 9th round or something stupid like that?
Oh, I think it was later.
Yeah. So I think he'll be the steal of the draft next year, but I'm going to wait on him. I'm going to let it come to me. Robert Woods depends on if he recovers from his injury. I liked Bobby Trees, but I mean, I wasn't that high on him going into the year because I know how much they love Cooper Kupp there. So
Allen Robinson sounds 10th round sounds about right, kind of like with Debo this year, 10th round. Robert Woods, I'd like to know where he ends up, of course, but if he stays with the Rams in that same situation, he's almost not draftable for me because he's just guys have passed him up there. Like if they have Beckham and they have Van Jefferson and they have Kupp, then I think he's 4th fiddle, and I don't want any part of that.
I agree with you. And Van Jefferson's really starting to come on. Cooper Kupp. Who was the kid that was playing a lot that was like a young Cooper Kupp out there?
Yeah, number 18.
Yeah, I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name, but he looked pretty good too. So there's a lot of people on that. And I think Odell actually looked pretty good. So
he did. We'll see if he makes it through COVID protocol and plays this week. Now, sticking with the Rams, Cooper Kupp was a 5th round pick this year. Steal of the draft. We're looking at Jerry Rice type numbers. He's going to set He might even break Marvin Harrison's catch record, or was it? No, it was Michael Thomas. He might even break that record. So Cooper Kupp, where do you take him next year?
I'm not giant on a receiver in the first round, but I could see where people would take him in the first round next year.
Late first round. He's in that Devontae Adams territory. The 9th, 10th pick. Boom.
My
Cooper
issue
Kupp.
is no receiver that was taken that early really panned out. I mean, Devontae Adams has had a couple of good games, but he hasn't been.
He's panning out.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams has come through with some big games, and he does justify a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But Cooper Kupp sure would have if you'd taken Cooper Kupp there. How about Kyle Pitts? He was a 6th-rounder this year for us. Where do we take him next year?
Who's his quarterback?
If it's still Matt Ryan, let's just say.
Where was he? Where was he drafted this year?
6th round.
Probably about right.
It's exactly where I'd take him.
Yeah, he's got too much talent to not come back a little bit and be better in his second year.
Taking a rookie in the 6th round is risky. Taking a second-year beast like Kyle Pitts in the 6th round is perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. Jamar Chase, he was taken in the 7th round. And he's hit that rookie wall. He did come up with a touchdown this week. Where do you take him?
Take him in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think he's going to be transcendent.
I like him in the 3rd. It's risky to take him in the 2nd, but I love him in the 3rd.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll get him.
Too. But yeah, I don't think you'll get him if you wait.
Yeah, exactly. Deebo Samuel was my 10th round pick this year. Stole his ass. But still injury prone, and his role has changed quite a bit from the beginning of the year to now. Where would you draft him?
I also worry about who's throwing him the ball next year, because it's probably going to be Trey Lance, and I haven't seen anything that makes me believe Trey Lance is going to be that good of a quarterback. I know some people think he's going to be the next coming of whoever, but I don't know that I'd take Deebo as early as what his. I mean, although God, listen, he had a game that he was injured, and his worst game, he hasn't gone under double digits at all. He's got 10 in 1 week. He's 16 this week, and that was a bad week. Mm-hmm. I still think 3 or 4. I still think they find a way to get him the ball.
I think 4th round is about right for Deebo. Yeah.
That's where I'm going to get him. I think somebody will reach for him in 3, though.
I got one for you. This one will be fun. 12th round pick, Javonte Williams.
First.
Can I tell you where I'd take him?
Is Gordon there?
I don't care if Gordon's there. I'm taking him 3 overall. I want Jonathan Taylor. I'd probably take Derrick Henry, and then I'd take Javonte Williams because I think this guy's a beast, and I don't care if Melvin Gordon's there or not. Melvin Gordon probably won't be there, and if he's not, Javonte Williams.
I worry a little bit if Gordon's still there because they do still feed that guy. I think Najee, maybe I would go before him.
Not me.
The ball, but I do like me some Javonte. I like him a lot.
All right. And last but not least, rookie wide receiver that was picked in the 15th round, Jalen Waddle.
Show signs, right? Show signs. Showing some actually really good signs. I think I like him 5th round, 4th round, maybe.
3rd round. He reminds me of CeeDee Lamb in a way. Not the way they play, but the upside. Like how much he did in his rookie year versus what he's going to do in his second year. I think Jalen Waddle is a perfect 3rd round pick. That's where I got CeeDee Lamb. I would look about the exact same spot, late 3rd round, to get Jalen Waddle next year. Because I think the upside's huge there. He really clicks well with Tua.
Yeah. Hey, where are you taking Kamara?
I thought about that. Probably mid 1st round. Depends.
He looks good.
He does look good. It always depends on who's the quarterback. Is Taysom Hill going to be the quarterback? Because when Taysom Hill's the quarterback, it's not necessarily – he doesn't catch a lot of balls. And he steals some of his touchdowns.
He got 37.6 this week.
Jets.
First week back.
Jets.
That's a good point. It was the Jets. We'll see
Yeah.
how he does next one. Yeah. It's a good
Yeah.
point.
Do you hear that, John?
Is that the
It is. It's the Fantasy Reaper.
Ghost of Christmas Future?
Johnny, run!
The Fantasy Reaper.
Am I in the presence of the spirit of Christmas is yet to come? Spirit, I fear you most. But I must tell you that I want to know how you feel about Fantasy Reaper and taking out some people. So, Reaper, who you got on your list that you've come to get this year?
Johnny, I do this for the kids. First one, Mecole Hardman. Football is hard, man, and you're just not very good at it. You are not Tyreek Hill, and you're not even Jameel Hill, because you don't even provoke a conversation about you. You are fantasy irrelevant, Mecole. You haven't had a 100-yard game ever in your career. You run a 4.2 40, but you can't find a way to equate that speed into even 4.2 receptions per game or even 4.2 touchdowns in a season. You are a waste of young talent, man, and your mother named you Mecole. Shame on you. I pity the fool. You are only 23 years old, so you will be the youngest I've ever taken. But taking you out to the woodshed is easy, man. Come with me, young Mecole, and let me show you where I keep the fantasy rejected souls.
All right, I have one that I need to ask you about here, Fantasy, and I agree with you on Mr. Mikola. All right, let's go. Honestly, you could take your pick in the Denver wide receiver room because nobody can throw to him. But is it time to take Mr. Cortland? Can I get Sutton? Is it time to take him out? This man is killing us all.
Man, Cortland Sutton. I wouldn't take him to the woodshed just yet. The man is young. He doesn't have a good quarterback. I would like to take Teddy Bridgewater, though. What do you think, Johnny?
I'll trade it. You can take Bridgewater. Just give me a quarterback who can throw to Cortland.
They just need to get any quarterback in there, and I have a feeling Aaron Rodgers might be in Denver next year. And if Aaron Rodgers is there, do you really want me to take out Cortland Sutton?
All right, no. I just meant for this year, not forever.
For this year, definitely Cortland Sutton, death. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
But for the future, I think we better hold off on that one.
Okay. You got another one for me, Reap? What you got?
Oh, yeah. I've been saving this one for you, Johnny. Jacksonville head coach Urban Meyer. Have you seen the movie Varsity Blues, Johnny? Do you remember the part where the entire team refuses to come back onto the field at the half unless Coach Kilmer leaves the field? I feel like this scenario is going to play out in Jacksonville. What do you think, Johnny?
That would be awesome. That would be.
Let me count the ways why this guy needs to go. Mild-mannered Marvin Jones left practice because he got so angry and with Meyer's public criticism of him that they ended up having a heated argument. Then, number 2, in the locker room, Meyer delivered a biting message that he's a proven winner and his assistant coaches are losers. And he forced his assistant coaches to defend their own resumes in front of the team. 3, he benches James Robinson for fumbling the ball when he was stripped by the best defensive player in football. It wasn't like James Robinson was being careless with the ball. He had it in 2 hands, tucked away, and he got Aaron Donald, right? But he pulled him for that. And then, when it was his turn to come back into the game, Urban Meyer forced his assistant coach, Bernie Parmalee, to stop Robinson from going back in and leaving in old buddy Carlos Hyde in the game. Carlos freaking Hyde.
Yeah.
And number 4, let's not forget the lap dance that Urban Meyer received from someone who is younger than and also not his wife. And 5, oh yeah, the Jags are a bunch of jagovs. They're 2-11, people. The way I see it, you have 2 options. I can recommend a recipe for you. It's half a cup of baking soda and 2 quarts of water to remove the stench of Urban Meyer. Or you can turn them over to me and let me handle some business. Jaguars, call me.
Nice. I think we're going to end it on that. That is what I like to call a Sith drop, right? Isn't that what the thing you carry? What's that thing? Yeah. Nice.
It's an axe, Johnny. I have an axe.
Scythe, whatever it's called. Fantasy Reaper, thank you so much for appearing on our show again today. And tell Mr. T, your cousin, I said hi.
I'll definitely do that, Johnny. All right, folks. It's been another great week of fantasy football. I want to thank Johnny Ballgame for coming on the show. And I want to thank you guys, especially for hitting that like button, subscribing, hit that notification bell. We do this every week. I know we missed last week, and I apologize, but we're going to continue to push through and do this every week. So make sure you get that content each and every week by hitting that notification bell. Again, we want to say rest in peace to our buddy, our good friend, Adam Lawson, Lofo. May you rest in peace. Very sad. We're going to push on and try to be as funny as ever because that is the funniest man I've ever known. And I just want to say we love you, Adam. Rest in peace. And that's it for the show. We'll be back next week for week 16. Good luck in the fantasy playoffs this week, everyone. And, of course, aloha.
Aloha. Rest in peace, Adam.
Thanks for watching. Rest in peace, Adam Lawson. Tune in next week for another voiceless episode of Fantasy Sports Island.